I'm Tara Joseph, looking at the key themes in Asia in the week ahead with John Foley, who's the editor China for Reuters Breaking Views. John, good to have you here in Hong Kong. It seems like we keep getting a flurry of China data, and here it comes again. We've got CPI coming out, trade data coming out, bank lending coming out. What's the key one to watch?
There's so many data points. It's quite, it's blindsiding.
It's endless, basically.
The one that I would look at is bank lending. Bank lending drives the economy in China, and last month it was quite horrific. Banks only lent 540 billion yuan of loans, which basically is not very much. So people will be looking to see that banks are lending again. If bank lending is healthy, if it's much higher this month, then it will be a sign that the slowdown isn't as bad as people fear.
It seems like we've gone from a flood of bank lending, a huge problem in China, to next to nothing. So is it going to be that dramatic each time around?
Small banks can't lend because they've used up their capacity. Big banks can lend, but either they don't want to or no one wants to borrow from them. So somehow they need to match supply with demand, otherwise the economy is going to get into more trouble.
Let's move to politics. And here we are in Hong Kong. There is a legislative council election at the weekend. That doesn't sound so exciting. Growing tension between China and Hong Kong. We have hunger strikers sitting outside government buildings. What's this leading to, and what should we watch for?
Hong Kong's elections are very strange. No one outside of Hong Kong understands them, but there are 70 seats, half of them are voted for by the people of Hong Kong. And the incumbent chief executive, CY Leung, is very unpopular. So this will be a kind of protest vote by the people of Hong Kong, passing judgment on things like the national education curriculum, which is this very controversial, some people call it propaganda program of teaching kids about what it means to be Chinese. Hong Kong is increasingly butting heads, I think, with the mainland, and it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because Hong Kongers keep pushing at the limits of what's acceptable to Beijing.
As you say, this pushing of the limits, are people starting to feel this in Beijing? The tension is obvious here in Hong Kong.
I think it still feels very far away, and Hong Kongers do tend to be very civilized about the way they protest. But as you say, we have hunger strikers outside the government building here. Children, and threats to boycott schools. And this is very young protesters, which is a touch point in China. They're very sensitive to the idea of students protesting. So I think it's being watched with some nervousness, especially ahead of China's own leadership transition, which is going to be in about a month's time.
Finally, let's quickly go back to the economy. Auto sales. We've seen declining auto sales in China. Is this a sign that the economy is slowing down?
It's got to be a sign the economy is slowing down, and auto sales, I think, are likely to grow in single-digit percentages this year, which is, when you consider they were growing 40% at one stage a couple of years ago, it's got to be a sign of a slowdown. In the long term, China still needs more cars. There's only one car for every 22 people in China, compared to one car for every 7 people everywhere else in the world. So there's room for growth. But a healthy slowdown, and let me tell you, I live in Beijing, so I breathe in the results of all these cars, the produce of all these cars every day. A slowdown is probably a healthy thing for the economy at large, if not for the individual car makers.
Good luck with those traffic jams. And John Foley with a focus on China. Thanks very much.